Welcome everyone to this EasyRed 2 Update 2.0 showcase. We are about to show you the biggest update we have ever made. And what a better way to showcase it than playing through our brand new casino campaign. So, what you are watching right now is one of the 15 missions we have created for casino. Yes, I said 15. The original EasyRed 2 only had 2 casino missions. But we knew that this battle deserved so much more. We are now covering all 4 battles of Monte Cassino, from January through May 1944. This isn't just about quantity though. Everything you're seeing have been built from the ground up to have the opportunity to showcase the battle in a much more faithful way. Notice how different the combat feels here compared to Ezio maps. Ezio was mostly flat coastal plains. Here in Cassino, on the other hand, you're fighting constantly on hills, slopes. Every ridge, every boulder, every terraced vineyard becomes a crucial cover. The Germans indeed had months to prepare their positions and defenses here, so we tried our best to recreate this situation. Speaking of changes, look at these animations. Every single first-person locomotion animation has been completely redone. We are probably speaking of about 100 individual animations that includes sprints, crouch, prone, transitions, jumping, all the recoil patterns, melee attacks, bayonet thrust, everything. But it's not just about looking pretty. Feel how the camera motion, which of course is an optional settings, allow to feel the weight of your movement. You can really sense now the gear that your soldier is carrying. About animations, we had a huge hand, as always, from Johnson. So Johnson, maybe you want to say a few words about the new locomotion system you helped realizing all the animations you made?
Yeah, so first of all, the biggest thing for me, in my opinion, is that the locomotion system for first person was completely reworked. In that sense that the visuals are a lot more natural. So the way that your character moves around right now in the game is a lot more. You can feel the weight of each step. That's the biggest part, because previously, when you are walking or running, your character had these floating animations and the recoil animations. These are also very good addition, because previously the recoil, especially for automatic weapons, they were very static. Like, you know, Easy Red is a game that is about realism, and previous firing system, the recoil system, I should say, was very arcadey. The visuals were very basic, and you didn't even have to control the recoil most of the time, because it was very tame and there were no penalties for you to, you know, full auto spray for 100 meters with an SMG. It's, you know, it's very not possible in real life. I mean, kinda, but you know, it would be very hard. So I tried my best to make a very cohesive firing system of animations that would make it harder, but still very controllable.
Yeah, exactly. The old system basically was very much code based, and all the locomotion animation, so walking, sprinting, jumping, etc., were procedural, driven by code basically. But Johnson really wanted to make a system where he had a very in-depth control on how animation worked.
The new animations, while they are very good quality in my opinion, these are still subject to change. In my opinion, every animation that is right now in the update is a lot better than the old system. So even then, you know, I would say it's better. but also I see that I can improve some stuff. So in the next updates, the animations will be also updated further.
This 2.0 update should be considered basically the collection of every updates we made this year that completely changed the face of E0 2. However, in the specific part of the update releasing today, we have added completely new factions and units. For example, we added the Gebirgsjäger, which are the German mountain troops. They've got their own Gewehr 3340 rifles, which are shorter and lighter than the standard K98, because they are designed for mountain warfare. Plus, their uniform includes the Bergmütze caps with different webbing and the climbing boots. Everything is historically accurate to what they were in Italy. And fighting alongside the Allies, we now got the Indian and Gurkha forces. The Commonwealth forces at Casino were incredibly diverse. We wanted to honor that. Both factions have their own voice acting and face models, and when you hear them charge, you'll know it. Map and mission making for Casino, of course, was achieved by Prince of Panzer and Fanny. So, Prince, what do you feel about the results we managed to achieve for Casino?
One of the things I really loved about creating the map of Casino is it really was something that after doing Anzio, where it was pretty decently flat and open and, I mean, kind of a classic Italian countryside, Casino was pretty much the complete opposite, where you get these iconic Italian mountains, and I was really excited to, I guess, especially as a map maker, put in the effort to allow a lot of the fighting to happen on mountains, because I think that's something that is very difficult, especially when you look at what we see on the workshop and between other games. It's hard to get good mountain fighting and also make the gameplay fair, but also make it look really picturesque. And so I think between Montricchio, which is, mind you, the U.S. Army attacking and capturing that mountain, was kind of the springboard in which the attack on Casino was launched. I know personally I had a lot of fun creating the probably 1,000 rocks that are angled up that mountain to allow cover and such, and then of course the iconic outpost tower on the very tippy top. If you actually end that campaign, you should be able to get a great view into the Casino Valley and Monte Cassino itself. And going on to Monte Cassino, that was something I was also very excited to work on, as you know, the iconic monastery just sits there the entire campaign as you fight through little forests and cities and over rivers, and it kind of almost taunts you. It puts you in a position where you know at some point you're going to have to go up that hill, and it's a good culmination, especially when you fight as the Polish army, finally taking that in the last mission of the campaign. I know personally I'm a big fan, and I have a great interest in a lot of British and Commonwealth equipment, and I would say that the new additions to the campaign, both from the new Gurkha and Indian factions, with great new voice lines, as well as new Thompsons, new support weapons, have really, I think, benefited the game overall, just adding in the extra bit of authenticity to really put you in the place of a lot of these soldiers that were fighting in that campaign.
Hi everyone, I'm Funny. I'm the lead map designer for Easy Red 2, and as you all know by this point, the 2.0 update is coming out with Casino. And something I find pretty interesting that's being added is the inclusion of the new German Gebirgsjäger units. Translating directly as mountain troops, these guys are in some of the most rugged and vertical missions in the new Casino campaign, particularly those against the French in the earliest battle. They're pretty easily identifiable by their smocks and how they always wear the Bergmütze field caps with the Edelweiss flower on it. Another new thing Casino's bringing to the table is the inclusion of Indian and Gurkha units, who were mostly sent in attacks towards the main mountain itself. They both make use of the newly added British KD wool sweater, and in my opinion, they look super cool with it on. I'm actually a big fan.
Moving on with vehicles, we also have a lot of news in this very update. We got the new M10 Wolverine, completely rebuilt from scratch, and now we have 3 variants of it. Alongside with it, we also reworked the British Achilles with the 17-pounder and the M36 Jackson with the 90mm gun. We also reworked the Stu G and Stu H tanks, adding more variants. And same thing went for the Panzer III. So now I will leave Marcus, one of our main modelers, say a few words over some of the amazing vehicles and weapons he worked on for this update.
Oh, well, 2.0 update. We've come a long way, certainly. Well, one thing I worked very hard on for this update is definitely the Panzer III. I made a grand total of 9 variants of the Panzer III. It was definitely very tough to research all the various details that allowed me to make every model different from one another, so in order to make it recognizable. We also focused on less common variants like the Aus E. That was not very common, not very used unless in very early during the war. As far as I can remember, it is so limited use in Poland maybe, but I'm not so sure about that, so don't quote me on that, guys. But yeah, it was very important for us to make also these variants, because that allowed the community to create their own map, their own mission.
One very interesting detail, in my opinion, is the process we have to do our researches, especially when it comes to have this many variants of a weapon, of a vehicle. And maybe you can tell us a bit about that, because it's a big part of your work, having to deal with this process, having to deal with researches. And I can already introduce that most of the research, a lot of the research, is definitely thanks to a lot of very dedicated users that are in our social in general, but especially inside our Discord community. But maybe you, Marcus, can tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The community is a huge part in my researching process. I know a lot of stuff, but there is a lot of other stuff that I don't know, or I know in part, and I call myself a huge nerd for something, but when I don't know something, it's best to ask to other huge nerds, our community, and they will be very attentive. Yeah, we discuss a lot about the details we need to add, we don't need to add, and it's very stimulating to me. Another thing that I always do to research about a model that I need to do is going to look at some real life photo of what I need to work on. If we are talking about tanks, I refer to the Tank Encyclopedia, the website. It contains a lot of useful information about all the variants I need to do. Another thing that I usually do is also watch a lot of videos, mostly for weapon, because that will help me to understand better the proportion, the functionality of the gun itself, how a part is supposed to move around or move back and forth. It's invaluable for me to understand how something works, to model it as best as I can.
Research, of course, for us is very important. This game, after all, is almost like a playable documentary, so we really try to spot the information that we need from any place, any source we can find. Either some knowledgeable people inside or outside the team, some more rare books, some website, some content creator on YouTube. Moving on, vehicles now features a new camo system. So every single vehicle in the game now has a procedurally applied, historically accurate paint scheme. Before, we had maybe 2-3 skins in some vehicles eating up some disk space, while now dozens of authentic patterns can be achieved on each vehicle, and actually this takes less space than before, because the system is kinda procedural. So every German vehicle, for example, now can feature the winter whitewash or the accurate scheme for February 1944 in Italy. We got mid-war camos, we got desert camos, we got late war camos, and so on. This of course applies to every faction, not just Germany. other than these new tanks we just spoke about, we also have a new artillery in game that is kinda game changer because the QF-25 Pounder was the backbone of the Commonwealth artillery. And we also added the Vickers gun that laid down suppressive fire while you advance. As always, the goal for the game is so everything works together to create combined arms warfare that actually feels authentic. Now, let me tell you about what's coming next, because the Hungary campaign is something special. I know some of you expected some other kind of late war battles, but hear me out on why Hungary 1944-1945 is going to blow your mind. First, the setting itself is unique in World War II history. The siege of Budapest lasted 50 days. Imagine Stalingrad urban brutality, but with late war technology. We're talking about the Tiger IIs and the Joseph Stalin IIs dueling in city streets, and Panther Ausgs with infrared night vision, yes, actual night fighting equipment the German deployed in 1945. You'll be able to use these night scopes to achieve limited but crucial visibility advantages in night mission. This isn't some game fiction. This technology was really used in Hungary. You'll play as Hungarian forces fighting alongside Germany, with their unique militia rifles, Danubia submachine guns, MG30s, etc. But the Hungarians also had their own tank designs, for example the Zinri 2 assault gun or the Turan tanks. Then you'll experience the Romanian side after they switched to the Soviets in August 44 with completely different equipment, including Soviet PPS-42 and PPS-43, and of course late war model of tanks such as the T-34-85's versions. Many people inside the team are very thrilled for what we are gonna realize for this DLC. For example, Hipper, I know is very hyped. Hipper made many of the buildings we currently feature in game and will keep doing that work for Hungary, along with many of the Soviet vehicles that are gonna be added and reworked. So Hipper, what are your thoughts about Hungary as a new campaign for the game?
Many of the players might be aware that at the end of the war, Germany invented night vision equipped Panthers and rifles, but now for the first time, I think in any video game, you're going to get to see how they were deployed and in what numbers. And then furthermore, we're going to get to go into the little Hungarian burgeoning tank industry. We'll get to see little vehicles like the Turan, Poldi, the Chaba, and the Zrini. And even though they were produced in low numbers and never really became that famous, they were very effective in the battle, and I really hope we get to do those vehicles justice and show off what Hungary was able to make during the war. And not just on the tanks, but also items and equipment like the Panzerreim, anti-tank launcher, the 44M mace thrower, which I'm actually really excited for, especially because I can fire 2 shots, and it's going to destroy any tank that it hits. But furthermore, going into Spring Awakening, the Soviets did have a lot of Lend-Lease Shermans, and as the Shermans were just reworked, this will be the first time we get to really see the Lend-Lease Shermans in any campaign. And we're also going to get to see if, together with the S-85s and the Su-100s, if they're going to be enough to stop new Tiger IIs and Panzer 470s that the Germans will be throwing at them en masse. But not to be left out, we are of course going to look at the animal killers in the Soviet heavy tanks, such as IS-2, IS-2 1944, ISU-152, the ISU-122, all the way down to the Humboldt T-70, and then like the full rework of the Su-76 series. And of course, last but not least, we would like to announce the new Soviet T-34 vehicle rework. I've been working on this for a while, and I'm really excited to show this off.
The new campaign in Hungary is going to be one that is going to be pretty expansive, probably one that is going to be probably as big, if not larger, than I think any campaign we've kind of tackled before. We've had previously the France 1940 and 1944 maps, which, even though they took place in 2 different time periods, they were, they took place in 2 different places, and there's not much connection between the 2. Whereas with Budapest, it's all going to be very continuous, and we'll actually be covering 2 kind of simultaneous campaigns for the capture of Budapest. The first one, definitely, that we have down currently is a map of Balaton, Lake Balaton. There were 2 pretty major offensives around those areas with Operation Conrad in January, and Operation Spring Awakening in March of 1945. And then, of course, we'll have Budapest itself. The decision on the team, for the most part, is to focus on the western part of Budapest, that being the Buda part of Budapest. It's actually two different cities that basically conjoined on either side of the Danube. Some more interesting locations is for sure the Cespol Island with its airfield, and some of the fighting in the mountains west of Budapest. There was some pretty hard fighting there, as well as, of course, the fighting over the citadel right on the banks of the Danube, where you get the really iconic bridges that cross from Buda into Pest.
So about this DLC, of course, Marcus is gonna give a huge help, as always, into making weapons and vehicles. There's gonna be definitely a lot of cool weapons we can feature, some quite rare ones, but you know, the inclusion of two new factions, such as Hungary and Romania, and well, of course, the presence of late war German and Soviet weapons give us the possibility to really work on a lot of cool stuff. And probably Marcus has something that he can say about this.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super hyped about working on all the pretty unusual and pretty obscure guns used in this part of the conflict. All the weapons are super interesting, super uncommon and unseen in some ways for the rest of the world. I'm especially hyped to work on all things submachine gun. The Danuvia 43M, for example, is a gun that always interests me, and I can't wait to lay my hands on that one.
So for the next updates and the Hungary DLC, of course, Johnson is gonna steal the guy that is gonna make all the animations. I really wonder if there is some guns that Johnson is looking forward to make. As said, we all are really looking forward to make all the content that this update will come, so I'm pretty sure Johnson also has something to say about that.
Yeah, so about the weapons coming up, the Hungary DLC that's going to happen. Mostly I'm really looking forward to animate the PTRS 41 because I have a soft spot for this gun because of Call of Duty World at War. In multiplayer it was a beast of a gun, so you know, from a nostalgic point of view, I really want to animate that gun. Also from other guns, the Lewis gun, because I always liked the dinner plate kinda LMGs in any game. So you know, any gun that isn't very conventional, I really like to animate. Like if it's really weird looking, or have a very unique mechanics, I really looking forward to animate such weapons. And also other older animations that are already in the game for existing weapons. That's also gonna come.
Okay, so some reworks on some older animations. Yeah, I really can tell that Johnson is a super fan of making weird animations. I really remember Johnson pushing into making the PZB 39 German 80 gun to really have a complete animation where the soldier interact with every single bullet, every single projectile from the external magazine. And a similar situation was really with the Type 11, where you have the magazine that is loaded by using multiple rifles, triple flip, and we really didn't want to make it, a simple, unrealistic system where you just detach the magazine. But
yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty interested in delving into some of the real nitty-gritty stuff usually associated with the Eastern Front of World War II. It's just going to be a mishmash with 4 different factions going at it, with lots of usage of late war tech, such as the already talked about night vision, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to seeing the Tiger 2 in-game finally, assuming it doesn't break down on the way there.
But let's talk about systems coming through this year. Deployable MGs, where you can actually set up tripods and create firing positions anywhere. portable mortars that you can carry and set up for indirect fire support. The ability to rebuild destroyed sandbags and defensive positions. Imagine holding a point, getting shelled, then frenetically rebuilding your cover between waves. The multi-charge artillery system will allow you to adjust range and trajectory by changing powder charges, just like rear artillery. The new insignia system means accurate unit patches and rank markings that changes based on what unit you are playing. No more generic patch positioning. We are also working on automatic cinematic camera for people who want to create content or just watch battles unfold. It will intelligently frame the action, switching between different angles, kinda like a war movie. Beyond Hungary, we have already deep into South Tunisia, Kasserine Pass, where American learned harsh lessons against the Africa Corps, and Merit Line, where Montgomery finally broke through.
Yeah, so obviously we have North Tunisia currently, so South Tunisia to a degree is both a rework as well as a brand new map. And I think South Tunisia, the player base is going to be really excited to see that we get a lot more of what they would expect from the desert fighting in North Africa. I know it's probably some of the big names like, you know, Kasserine Pass, as well as the Merit Line are things that players can expect, as well as some more kind of unique things. Obviously, was the Battle of Mendening, Operation Pugalist, Supercharge, and of course El Qatar, which is the very famous American tank battle that pretty much shattered the German Africa Corps before they were retreating to North Tunisia, which should nicely lead into our current campaign. I think it's going to be really fun to do. I've already had a really good time working on the map currently. It'll be very different, I think, from South Tunisia, where you get a little bit more of the, I guess you could call it greenery. You get some more trees, you get a lot more grass. South Tunisia is going to be, like I said, really what you're going to expect from the desert. It's going to be rocky, it's going to be sandy, it's going to be pretty open. Some really exciting tank fights should be expected. You know, some of the big name units you'd see are like, you know, 90th Light Panzer Division, as well as, you know, 7th Armored Desert Rats. So definitely expect, as the players, you're going to see some of the really iconic desert vehicles. One of the vehicles I really hope, and we probably will end up including, is the Crusader tank. And I know the player base for a long time has been wanting Crusaders, but South Tunisia is one of the few appropriate places that we could add the Crusader, and so we'll definitely make sure that we get that added in for the campaign. One of the more minor actions that I know I was really excited to research and probably put into the campaign is a really underrepresented and not really well-known American paratrooper drop near Gafsa, where the Americans dropped a small force of American paratroopers to capture an airfield. Long story short, it didn't work out, but it was a really unique fight between American paratroopers, German paratroopers, as well as some really elite Italian forces that were in the area. Basically, the Italian forces were the almost complete opposite, if not partners, of the long-range desert group of the British, where it was called their L Force. No relation, of course. So that'll be really exciting to put out later this year.
With all that, you guys already have an idea of campaigns we're planning to hit up in the coming months, like southern Tunisia and Hungary. But we also have some campaigns we're considering for later on in 2026 that we'd like to do given the time. This last year, we had a lot of time spent on reworks, but with so many of those out of the way, all we pretty much have left is to just keep adding brand new stuff to the game.
For 2026, we'll definitely also have the time to work on other campaigns. We don't have clear plans, but definitely we have a lot of ideas. In addition, of course, to all the polls, all the feedbacks and suggestions the guy gave us over the time.
Sooner than later, we're looking into a likely campaign featuring the battles of Khalkhin Gol, a border conflict in 1939 in which Soviet forces fought against Japanese forces, in a huge armored battle with over 20,000 casualties on each side alone, resulting in a Soviet victory and retaining their land in Mongolia that the Japanese wanted. Here you can expect a lot of wide open fields with lots of trenches, and Lots of early war Soviet and Japanese vehicles just going at it. After all that's said and done, it's pretty likely we're going to look into returning to the Pacific with the Battle of Iwo Jima campaign. If you don't already know, that's an early 1945 Pacific campaign in which the 5th Amphibious Corps of the Marines invaded what would technically be the very first Japanese home island of the war, where defenders fought to the bitter end and entrenched themselves so deeply within the island to the extent that it took Allied forces over a month just to clear this just 20 square kilometer island. For reference, Kwajalein in game now is just around 16 square kilometers, and that battle lasted just a few days. Anyways, I hope you guys are excited for 2026 just as much as I am, and all of us at Corvostudio hope to see you guys love what we're adding now and going forward. Later, everyone.
Of course, as always, remember that when we make new roadmaps, that's pretty much just the general idea and guidelines into which we will move on, but it's very likely that much more will be achieved. Plus, usually our roadmaps doesn't include exact vehicles, uniform, weapons to be made or to be remade, but of course, that's a never-ending quest for us. We keep adding new content for the already existing campaigns or reworking some of the old stuff that we have been in game for a pretty long time, but now we have the capabilities of making better than before. Generally, I really think that this 2025 have been the most important year probably for Easy Red 2. Since the release of the DLC based in China, Easy Red 2 started really to prove a new quality standard for the game, and this 2.0 update really summarized an idea of rework and minimum quality that from now on we want to bring. Maybe in future, with more skills, with more resources, we will be able to do another big step up. Until then, thank you so much, really hope you're gonna enjoy the big plans that intend to bring you in the near future.